But I am thrilled to be here, and I want to say good morning and welcome to our first Impact Florida Education Summit. I will just tell you, I want to take a moment of personal privilege and tell you that Mandy Clark and Trey Czar primarily, and a group of really stalwart, dedicated people have worked tirelessly over the last several years formulating what this looks like. And I know Mandy's going to talk a lot more about that, and I'm not going to take her thunder away from her, but we're just thrilled you're here, and we're glad your district's here. We have a great conference in store for you and over the next 2 days. So I want to kind of put into English what Jacob just talked about with the standards. From a superintendent's perspective, I remember the first of the month when the executive order came out, and trust me, do not spend a great deal of time on Facebook and Twitter. But it was very interesting to me that as soon as the executive order was issued, educators were posting things to Facebook that says, yay, we can now go back to teaching the basics, reading, writing, and arithmetic. And I'm sitting there going, just about to poke my eyes out. Because I would venture a guess that some of those were PASCO educators. So I'm not just saying you guys, but it's also us as well. And so it caused me a great deal of concern, obviously, as a superintendent, because our foot has been on the gas pedal, full bore. I know since I've been here, going on 7 years. And everything that we do is wrapped around in those Florida standards. So just this week, I spoke to our elementary principals. Just yesterday, I spoke to our secondary principals, and to let them know that we are not going to take our foot off the gas pedal. We have kids, as Jacob said, we have third graders out there that are relying on us to ensure that they're prepared, and they're prepared to take the assessment in May. And we cannot afford to let off the gas. We need to stay the course. You need to remind, and I just say this like I'm telling you work for me and I'm going to tell you what to do, but that's who I am. You need to stay the course, go back, tell your teachers, tell your district staff, we're not letting up. We've got to stay on these standards. We still have assessments in place. As Jacob said, my guess is that it's probably going to be 2 years before we really see things trickle out to classrooms. By the time you talk about the review process, you're talking about the review process of the formulation of what that's going to look like, get it to the governor. The governor's going to review his staff, and then it's got to get to the legislature and state board, and then publishers with instructional materials. And it's just, as I told the commissioner a couple weeks ago when this came out, eliminating Common Core is just not as simple as putting your signature on an executive order. And I said that with all due respect. But it's much more complex and difficult than that. So continue to communicate to your district and school-based staff. Stay focused on teaching those standards with fidelity. I would also encourage you to do what Jacob has encouraged you to do, and that is get on that website and get your comments in. It's important that educators that believe in the standards, that our teachers that teach those standards in our classrooms each and every day, those teachers that have seen results because of those standards, that they let their opinions be known to the Department of Education. If not, the Department of Education is going to get a lot of comments like, I hate the Common Core. That's what's going to happen. And I'm not saying let's just start a campaign, but I'm just saying that we need to make sure that we get opinions, viewpoints into the department so they have a full picture of what's actually happening out there in the field. Now, what I get to do now is just share briefly a little bit about the Pasco story. Some of you have heard about what we've done, and I always like talking about my district. It is, most of you know I come from outside of education. I'm not a teacher. I've never been a principal. I've managed large organizations, but none as large as this district. We've got about 10,000 plus employees, 75,000 kids. We run about 450 buses twice a day on the roads. We feed about 50,000 kids 2 times a day, maybe 3 times, depending on the school. We provide mental health services. We make sure our schools are safe. We deal with insert the adjective, union. We just deal with a plethora of different things. And as I tell people, I have never worked this hard in my entire adult life. It is hard work. It is incredibly hard work. But the Pasco district, when I got there, and I came into the district from a non-education perspective. And so I was looking at things through a different lens than a lot of the folks in the district. And that's not a bad thing, to either look at it through the education lens or a non-education lens. It was just a different lens. And we knew, but we also knew that our district was not unlike any other district in Florida. We knew that we needed to change things up, but the question was how and what. So in 2013, our district requested that TNTP come in and perform the diagnostic and take a look at Pasco using their diagnostic tool. And I will tell you, it was an incredible experience for us. It was like the flag in the ground. We were going to have to make some changes if we were going to put ourselves out and risk who we were. And we knew that when we got into that, we were going to have to fix what they found. And I will tell you, it revealed the good, the bad, and as I like to say, the really ugly. Things that sometimes we knew existed, we just kind of like the ostrich put our head in the sand and said, this too shall pass, it's not causing any problems. And we're getting by, everything's fine. We also knew that if we conducted that diagnostic that in fact we were going to have to address those concerns. One of the first things we did, running parallel to this, was I've got an incredible team of people in Pasco. I mean, the people that, superintendents oftentimes get a lot of credit for the success of their districts. I will tell you, it's no different with me. People say, oh, you're doing great things. It's great, thank you for being superintendent. My folks are the ones that make me look like the rock star. It has nothing to do with what I do. It's the only thing that I do, well, the exception of Highlands County. I saw you mention to your folks over there that they need to do that for you. But in seriousness, I mean, all I do is empower these folks. I create the environment and say, go forth and do good. You know what the mission is. Go do it. And they deliver each and every day. So one of the things we did is we had to define for ourselves, what does excellent instruction look like in a classroom? What does it look like? Let me ask you, do your school-based administrators, do your teachers, your district office staff know what excellent instruction looks like in the classroom based on the Florida standards? Do you? I will tell you that what we found was it depended on what classroom you were in. And it looked, and TNTP found the same thing, is that teachers thought they were teaching standards. And yet when they looked at work, when they observed classrooms, when they went to PLCs, what did they find? They found that the instruction was here when the standards were here. And that was a problem for us. But Pasco was no different than what was happening across the nation. So we really had to define, and we collaboratively got a group of district folks together, and we settled on what instructional excellence looks like in our classrooms. That's the point. That's what guides us, and that's what keeps us focused. So if we don't see those things as a result of the instruction coming out of our schools, out of our classrooms, then we have something to go back in and make adjustments with teachers and administrators. It does provide the clarity across the district on what we need to see in our classrooms. We also established, and this sounds kind of simplistic, but we established district priorities. 3 simple yet complex priorities. I think they're complex because when you really think about what they involve, it's complex. They're not easy. Data-driven decisions. Our first priority is data-driven decisions. Are the decisions that we make in our district based on data, accurate data? High-impact instruction, second priority. Is all the instruction we're providing to all of our students high impact? If it isn't, what are we going to do to fix it? What are we going to do to correct it? Thirdly, having that collaborative culture in our district. No man is an island. Every idea is an okay idea or a good idea at start. We have to winnow it out. But let's have a collaborative culture. Let's talk about what is best for the students in Pasco. Everything we do in the district needs to, what I like to say, fit within those district priorities. It keeps us focused on the right work. If it does not fit, it doesn't get added to the plate. Our district was kind of known that we would chase every shiny thing that came along. And teachers recognized that. Teachers, oh, it's just a fad. The Common Core standards, when they were adopted, it's just a phase, this will pass. Hadn't passed yet, not yet, hadn't passed. But the standards are there. We've always had standards, but we've stopped chasing things in the Pasco district. As a district, we also know the importance and value of strict adherence to the Florida standards. We also understand the value and importance of high quality instructional materials and the professional learning opportunities that we give to our teachers and our staff that support those standards. Everything, I keep like to say, high quality instructional materials, and English speak is standards aligned. And the thing that troubled me about the whole instructional materials thing is that we were finally just getting, after 9 years of having the standards in this state, we were now finally getting instructional materials that were truly standards aligned. And then we're going to have the brakes put on it. But let me just, we're in the middle of math adoption, and we use Eureka Math in Pasco. We're seeing great results, and this is not a commercial for Eureka, but I will tell you in Pasco, we're getting great results from Eureka K-5. And so what we're doing, it's an online resource. It's free. For all practical purposes, it's free. So now we can use part of our 50% of the money that we have access to go procure, not adopt, but procure all the support materials, the consumables. We're doing the same thing for our 6-8 math. Open Up. That's a new math curriculum, online, free for all practical purposes, and what costs us are the consumables, but it's standards aligned. We've not had a fully standards aligned math curriculum 6-8. We will starting next year. The next presentation, after we get through rambling up here, and I know I'm probably taking more time than I should, but I have the microphone. You'll hear much more about those, as well as the absolute need to set high expectations in classrooms. I am looking so forward to the opportunity myth presentation. If you've not read, you've got a copy of it in your packet, I think. If you've not read it, read it. Read it. Eat with it. Sleep with it. Talk to your wife or your husband about it. Most importantly, talk to your district leadership about it. I don't want to, boy, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. But also, it talks about providing those grade level assignments to students, which we're not doing in many of our classrooms. We're just not doing it. The Pasco District believes strongly that this combination of conditions will not only move the Pasco District to greater student achievement, but it will also move districts throughout Florida to greater student achievement. If there's one message that I want to leave with districts today, it is make these conditions for learning a priority. You just don't say they're a priority and then move on. You have to be ingrained in everything you do. And you have to hold people accountable in the classrooms, in schools, and at the district level. If they're going to drive student achievement, then they're important enough to monitor and hold people accountable to. We cannot expect improvement without continual monitoring and accountability. It won't happen. It will not happen. Today, I will tell you that parents have choices, lots of choices, and I'm okay with choices. You hear a lot about choice. You hear a lot about charters and vouchers and private schools and everything else. That means nothing to me. That means nothing to me. I'm only kidding. But I will tell you, I want to be their first choice. I want to be parents' first choice. We've got to change our processes throughout the state if we want to remain relevant. I've said that from day one. We think and we thought we were the only show in town. We are not the only show in town. Parents have choices. My involvement, what would become Impact Florida, began in 2016. A small group of folks got together. We wanted to radically change what education looked like in Florida. And Impact Florida came into being. As superintendent, as you can only imagine, my time is precious. So what I invest my time in has to be really, really important to me. And I think I've invested quite a bit of time in Impact Florida because I know the impact that it will have in Florida. The last thing I want to tell you is this. We talk a great deal in Pasco about collective responsibility. Do you know what I mean when I say collective responsibility? We stress at our schools that our schools should be concerned about all schools in our district, because when all schools rise, our district becomes a better district. I will tell you, the state is no different. Districts should be very concerned about the academic progress of other districts. We're a little competitive. I know I look at Collier all the time. I got you in the crosshairs. But we're competitive. And the thing that we need to do is we need to know that when other districts rise, this state will become a better state. We have a responsibility to and for each other. So with a tight focus, we believe that Impact Florida is going to be that vehicle that we can use to capitalize on looking at best practices from across the state, and that we can learn from each other, because we are not just 67 independent school districts. We are the state of Florida, and we need to be working together. I am grateful that you're here today. I am so grateful you've invested your time today and tomorrow to be here and learn. Take advantage of the presenters today. Look at things differently through a different lens. And then if you don't want to go back and fully implement some of the things that you've learned this week, at least go back to your districts and begin having what we call those bold and courageous conversations with district leaders about what can we do differently in order to provide that world-class education to those students that they expect and, more importantly, they deserve. I hope you have a great conference, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.